Hello YouTube and welcome to Synthetic Oil Info. In this video I want to talk a little bit about the history of synthetic oil and the more recent advancements that are causing some issues out there with synthetic blend oils. If you go back in history, AMSOIL was the first company to bring a synthetic oil to market back in the early 1970s. And in the mid 1970s, Mobil followed with about 2 years after AMSOIL with their Mobil 1, which is now the leading um, synthetic oil product on the market. And then very gradually the rest of the oil companies, the big name guys, Pennzoil, Valvoline, Quaker State, and the rest of the big players gradually started bringing in their own full synthetic oils. And when those oils came on the market back in the 1970s and early 1980s, they were coming in with a Group 4 PAO base stock. So these were what we now refer to as your traditional full synthetics. Very high quality. These were the oils that allowed AMSOIL, and still allows AMSOIL, to have an oil that you can run for 25,000 miles or only change it once a year. The rest of the oil companies pretty quickly backed off of that extended drain philosophy because they realized that it was going to hurt their profit margins because they didn't think they were going to sell as much oil. But then you come into the 1980s and the 1990s, and we start seeing more companies bringing synthetic products to the market. But then we also start seeing specialization in the market as well. And so now you go into the store and you're going to find, several different levels of synthetic oils. You've got 4x4 oil. You've got, older vehicle oil. You've got just a plain label synthetic oil. You've got Mobil 1's 15,000 mile extended performance oil. Just almost anything they can hang on a label and that doesn't even start to talk about all of the different ingredient marketing ploys that companies have used. We've got diamond oil, we've got platinum oil, we've got titanium oil, we've got every color combination, every precious gemstone nameplate we can add to these different oils. But none of them really mean anything unless you know what's in the oil. All of those things are marketing ploys. And it's very similar to what happened in 1999 when the National Advertising Division of the Federal Trade Commission allowed companies to market hydrocracked Group 3 oil as full synthetic. But that's a whole different story that I'll cover in a different video. But the one I want to touch on right now is synthetic blends. Synthetic blends were brought to the market by most of the big players several years ago in an attempt to create yet another price point to get their products on the shelves. So traditionally you had a conventional oil and you had a synthetic oil. So you had those good and better, or good and best choices there for consumers. So in an attempt to further subdivide those categories, now you've got companies, or at this point you had companies fracturing those groups into multiple layers so that no matter what you were driving, whether you were driving that 4x4, whether you were driving that older high mileage vehicle, or you were driving a sports car, whatever, they wanted to have an oil there that you felt like was being marketed to your unique needs and your vehicle's unique oil requirements. When in fact, most of the oil in all those bottles was probably the very same or very similar. And so there was very little difference in the actual oil product. It was all a marketing issue. The problem that synthetic blend oils have created ever since they existed, and it is what is probably going to lead to their demise, is there's been no standard. So I can put a synthetic blend oil on the market, and I can say, yep, this is a synthetic blend, and I can have one drop of synthetic oil in that quart of oil, and 99.9% of the rest of the oil in that bottle can be a conventional oil of an unknown quality, because they don't have to say what group of oil it's made from. They don't have to say anything about the quality of the oil. All they have to say is this is a synthetic blend, and they can market that oil as a synthetic blend and charge you that premium price, which is usually, that next step up from the highest point of conventional oil. And you're getting basically a conventional oil with a very small fraction of synthetic oil in there. And it's unknown quality as well. We don't know if that oil is a hydrocracked group 3 or a PAO based group 4 oil, but chances are you're getting the synthetic oil that costs them the least to produce. So it's probably a hydrocracked group 3 oil that's being added to a group 1 or group 2 conventional oil and being marketed as a synthetic blend. So it was one of these issues where if you were running a synthetic blend oil, it made you feel better. It made you feel like you were doing a little bit more to take care of your car than just doing a traditional oil change with conventional oil. But you were still changing it. If you were following the oil change industry's recommendation, you were still changing that oil every 3,000 miles, because that's what you've been beat over the head with to do. You're just paying a premium for that very small fraction of synthetic oil that's really doing very little good inside your engine, because there's just not enough of it in there. And so when your engine starts to operate in those intermediate zones where it's starting to stress that oil, the vast majority of that oil is still a conventional oil. It's going to respond like a conventional oil. It's going to vaporize like a conventional oil because it is a conventional oil. It's going to leave behind the sludge. It's going to leave behind the deposits. It's going to act just like a conventional oil, and you're going to have the same problems, but you paid more, and that oil company made more money from you. This small amount of synthetic oil that was in there wasn't enough to counteract the negative effects of that conventional oil. You weren't able to extend your drain interval because you still have the vast majority of that oil in your crankcase is conventional oil. And so all that happened is you paid more money, and a product went into your crankcase of your car that didn't protect you anymore, and you still have to change it as often. So a lot of companies, Mobil just announced here in the last year that they've stopped producing a synthetic blend because they have produced another synthetic oil outside of the Mobil 1 nameplate. And so if you go down to, I think it's called their Mobil Super, they now have a synthetic oil in the Mobil Super line, which is really their conventional oil line. So what they've done is they've taken that synthetic blend and just changed it to a full synthetic, undoubtedly of a Group 3 hydrocracked quality. Not bad at all, but definitely not as good as a Group 4 PAO based oil. So that's actually a move in a good direction, because now they're no longer claiming that this blended oil is actually anything more than a conventional oil with a dropper full, if that much, of synthetic oil in there. So bottom line is, don't fall for it. I do not recommend synthetic blend oils. You pay more, you get nothing more for it, and it was just an attempt to make you feel better about using a synthetic oil. If you're going to run a synthetic oil, run a synthetic oil completely. Fill your crankcase to the with a good quality synthetic oil like AMSOIL, and then you're doing the right thing. Excuse me. So that's it for right now. If you have any questions or comments about my video here, please post them down below. check us out on Facebook at Synthetic Oil Info as well. Our website is www.minutemanperformance.com. Our email address is info@minutemanperformance.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Please post your questions or comments below. And have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.